The great American wolf stands as a proud symbol of our nation's natural heritage. Once present throughout the majority of the United States, by 1945, these majestic animals were hunted to near extinction in the lower 48. In the 1970s, wolves were placed under the protection of the Endangered Species Act, and in the 1990s, they were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park and parts of Idaho. Wolf populations took hold, expanded, and once again began to thrive in their native range. Since then, habitats that had been heavily browsed and depleted by elk and deer have rebounded, bringing biodiversity and health back to these important ecosystems. In 2011, after this remarkable success and millions of tax dollars spent to restore wolves to their historic native lands, the federal government removed the wolf from their list of endangered and protected species. The fate of wolves now resides with individual states, where politics drive management decisions instead of science. Powerful special interests of hunting and ranching hold an enormous amount of influence and power over state fish and wildlife commissions, which ultimately control decisions regarding wildlife. As a result of this shift from federal to state control, it's open wolf hunting and trapping season across a growing number of states, and well over 1,000 wolves have already been needlessly slaughtered.
State wildlife agencies are given responsibility for managing predators. However, they have a conflict of interest that most people are unaware of. One conflict of interest is that they raise most of their funding from the sale of license fees for hunting, for elk tags, deer tags, and so forth. So you're a state agency that wants to sell as many tags as possible. Well, you don't want the perception, real or not real, that wolves are affecting the abundance and availability of elk or deer, because that will mean that people will buy less tags, which means you'll have less money.
In some states, such as Wyoming, wolves are also going to be poisoned, shot on sight. In Montana and Idaho, you have trapping seasons and hunting seasons, where they're basically targeting, in Montana, close to 50% of the population, in Idaho, 80% of the population. And for all practical terms, this is a genocide in operation that's being driven by politics.
Managing wolves, like elk or deer or other big game species, doesn't consider the intricate social relationships that wolves and other predators have. Particularly wolves are social hunters. They depend on each other for their success. And they're not just cogs in a wheel that can be removed like a spoke in a wheel. They all have their role to play in the pack. They all contribute to the pack's overall success.
Disrupting the social organization of large carnivores like wolves can be very injurious, not only to individuals, but to the integrity of the pack, because they do have these divisions of labor. They've got expectations, that one animal will do a certain thing in a certain situation. And so what happens when you remove one individual, you really disrupt the flow of social information and social interaction patterns.
When we shoot them indiscriminately, like with hunting seasons, or trap them, or do anything that disrupts that social network, we make them less successful as a pack. And as a result, they're more likely then to go after the easiest thing that they can capture, which is usually livestock in the western United States. So we're setting those animals up for failure.
I often ask people who abuse animals and do nasty things to animals, would you do it to your dog? And some people don't like to hear that because it puts them in a very uneasy space. And, thank goodness, if I've talked to somebody who's, trapped a wolf, shot a wolf, done something poisoned prairie dogs, harmed coyotes, and I'll say, well, would you do it to your dog? They go, well, no, of course I wouldn't. And then I'll say, well, how come you can do it to another animal who is also sentient and conscious and feels pain? And oftentimes, with a lot of people, there's a pause. And it's an important pause, I think. because they haven't ever put their dog in the place of those animals.
Yet hunters act as if the only reason elk and deer exist is for them to be able to shoot them. And what we have to change is the perception, number one, that wildlife belongs only to those who exploit them that way. And that perception on the part of hunters is one of the reasons why these state wildlife agencies cater to the desire of hunters to reduce things like wolves or cougar or bear. If we see that elk and deer actually don't belong to anybody, or if they belong to anybody rightfully or anything rightfully, it should be predators first. Then we have a whole different way we would be managing these animals, which would be to allow elk and deer to satisfy their needs, and what might be left over possibly could satisfy the human needs. But humans don't have the same need to hunt for food that once characterized our history.
People go to nature, they go out, and they really want to see these animals. But then something happens when they go home, and they just get busy again. So you go, remember those beautiful wolves you saw in Yellowstone? Yeah, well, they're being shot, and they'll go, oh, how horrible, but they won't do a damn thing about it.
I do not believe we should be hunting wolves, cougars, grizzly bears, black bears. The science doesn't support that we have to control these animals' populations, that there are other mechanisms that control wildlife populations, and that really this is a myth that's been perpetuated by wildlife management agencies that receive the vast amount of their funding through hunting tags and licenses, fees, and that again the public is just not aware that this is going on. What's happening right now with the gray wolf, not just in Montana, Idaho, but now in the Great Lakes, the Midwest, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's tragic. It's a crime, and we hope we can make the public aware of this, and that we want to see a day where you won't be hunting these animals at all. Visit our wolf page at predatordefense.org to find out how you can help end the war on wolves.